So the nervous system starts off as which tube?
Neural tube.
Good, the neural tube, and then it vesiculates into three primary vesicles. What is this one?
Is it
Yeah, it's called the prosencephalon. Prosencephalon. What's the second one? Mesencephalon. The third one? Or what's another name for it? Rhombencephalon. Good. Good. Yeah, the other names for these are the forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain, and then what is this? Spinal cord. Good. Let's do it again. Here.
Oh no, this is the Robin.
Good. Good. Rhombencephalon. Here. Mesencephalon. Here. Prosencephalon. Here. Spinal cord. Good. And then the prosencephalon splits into two more vesicles. So does the rhombencephalon, but not the mesencephalon. So this is the mesencephalon still. What is this one? Good, the telencephalon. Let's go out of order. What is this? Good, the metencephalon. Good. Here? Good, the diencephalon. And look at these things, right? Those are the optic vesicles, right? Those are the things that become the optic nerves. So they're like just extensions of the diencephalon, right? They come off of the thalami. Okay, what about this? It's called the myelencephalon. Like myelin, right? Surrounding an axon. Like the myelin sheath. Good. Here? Good. The spinal cord. Good. Let's do it again. Here? Good. The myelencephalon. Here? Good. The metencephalon. Here? Good. The mesencephalon. Here? Good. The diencephalon. And here? Good. The telencephalon. What's this? Nice. Spinal cord. Good. Yeah, so we have to know these words. These are in the lab manual. Okay? There's a chart, I think, at the end, like after.
It's like 63.
Oh, you're happy that you don't have to know that for lecture? For lecture or lab? Oh, Tony told you that? Okay, sounds good. All right.
Can we have that in writing?
Got it. All right. Okay, let's do it again. What is this? Get the prosencephalon. Here. Mesencephalon. Here. Rhombencephalon. Good. Prosencephalon splits into the what? Telencephalon. Oops, not that. And the diencephalon. Good. Rhombencephalon splits into which two? Metencephalon and myelencephalon. Good. And the mesencephalon is just the mesencephalon again. What's the adult structure called for the telencephalon? Good. Cerebrum. The diencephalon forms the which structures? Right, epithalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus, everything with thalamus. What is the adult name for the mesencephalon? Good, the midbrain. The metencephalon splits into which two structures? Good, the pons and the cerebellum. Good. And the myelencephalon turns into what? Good, the medulla oblongata. Good. Which?
The tracts are myelinated mostly.
Exactly, right? Also because the spinal cord is mostly myelin, right? Because of all of the white matter, like on the lateral, portion of the spinal cord. What are these spaces within the cerebrum? Good, the lateral ventricles. What about the space in the diencephalon? The third ventricle. This space in the midbrain, the cerebral aqueduct, good. Or aqueduct of the midbrain. It says cerebral aqueduct in the lab manual. And then, what is this space? Good, the fourth ventricle. So the superior part is formed by the metencephalon, and the inferior part is formed by the myelencephalon. So that's why it's called the rhombencephalon, because the fourth ventricle looks like a rhombus. All right. Here, we did some of these last time. Let's just do it again and identify. So what is this space? Good, the central sulcus, right? Right. And then, right, because the sulci are the grooves, and then the gyri are the hills, the mountains. Okay, what is this gyrus? Good, the post-central gyrus. What is this gyrus? Good, the pre-central gyrus. What's the function of the pre-central gyrus?
That's a primary motor center.
Right, contains primary motor cortex. What about post-central gyrus?
It's a primary motor, is it motor sensor or sensory?
Yeah, contains primary somatosensory cortex. Which lobe?
Frontal.
Good. Which lobe? Good. Parietal. Which lobe? Occipital. Which lobe? Temporal. What is this? The cerebellum. What is this? Good. Here? Good. And what is this space? Good, the lateral sulcus. Nice, good. All right, let's do this one as well. What is this space?
Longitudinal fissure.
Good, the longitudinal fissure. What about this lobe?
Frontal lobe.
Frontal lobe, good. This lobe?
Temporal.
Temporal. What is this? Good, the optic chiasm. What is this? Pituitary gland. What's another name for it?
Do we need to know that?
I'm not sure, but it's also called the hypophysis.
Hypophyseal fossa.
Exactly, good. What about, good, Yep. here? Pons. This region? Good, medulla oblongata. Here?
No, it's in between.
Think a bigger picture, like what's inferior to the medulla? What's inferior to the medulla? The spinal cord.
Oh.
What is this? The cerebellum. Okay, good. Yeah, all of this is like really big picture. Here,
Insula.
good, the insula. Okay, I think this is where we left off last time. What are some functions of the insula? Okay, good. To contain the primary gustatory cortex, to process taste. Good. That's a good one. That's a great one. Okay, good. Good job.
Emotional memories too?
Yeah, helps to process memories associated with emotions. Yes. Yeah, so it does a lot of things. Fear is amygdala. Mhm. It does disgust though. That's the negative emotion it does. Disgust. Sorry, say it again.
That's emotional memory with taste. Disgust, right?
Sure, it can be that, but it's also like, just like right now in the present moment, like if you have like a plate of rancid food, you'd be like, ew, that's gross. It's like, where is that occurring? In your insula, right? Even just thinking about it, where is that occurring? Your insula. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is like a posterior view of the brain, and the cerebellum has been removed, and so it's like this is brainstem, this is diencephalon. Okay. All right. What is this?
Would that be the, what's it called? The, Oh my god, this is the chemistry tracts, right?
Hmm.
Okay, this is the, somebody help me, cranium something.
It's the largest commissural tract in the brain.
Largest what tract?
Commissural tract.
Corpus callosum?
Good. Corpus
Corpus
callosum.
callosum.
Good. Corpus callosum.
Wow, so that's gonna happen to me in exam.
What about this space?
Lateral ventricle.
Good. The lateral ventricle. So now we should think, okay, well, what forms the lateral wall of the lateral ventricle? Good. The caudate nucleus. So that's what this is, the caudate nucleus. What is this?
Septum pellucidum.
Good. Septum pellucidum. Good. So here's corpus callosum. Septum pellucidum is inferior to corpus callosum. It's like hanging off of corpus callosum. And then what's inferior to septum pellucidum? Good. The fornix. Good. What is this?
Cerebral.
Not the cerebral aqueduct because that's in the midbrain, and the midbrain is here because we can see like the top of the superior colliculi.
So would that be the thalamic adhesion?
Exactly. Good. Good job. So that's the interthalamic adhesion, right? Mm-hmm. Good. So if that's the case, then what are these?
Thalamus.
Good. The thalami. I don't know which one. There we go. Okay. So if these are the thalami, which space is this?
Third ventricle.
Good. The third ventricle. What is this?
Pineal
Pineal gland. And then here,
gland. Superior colliculus.
that's a superior colliculus. Here, that's an inferior colliculus. And then what do you call all four of the bumps?
Corpora quadrigemina.
Good, the corpora quadrigemina. There's another name for it. Does anybody know the other name? They might have put the, they called it the quadrigeminal plate. The tectum is another name for the, yeah, tectum. Tectum.
Was it compared to a tectonic plate or something?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep. Just do what it says in the lab manual, but in different books you might see them using different words to describe this like thing here. Yep. Okay. Good.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What is between the cardiac nucleus and, I know we not have to know that, but the thalamus?
Between the caudate nucleus and the thalamus. Here?
Well, not the vessel, but like on the left side, there is something pointing at it.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Oh. It's called the lamina affixa.
Okay.
Whatever that is. I don't know what that is.
You don't know what it is?
Nope.
Okay, I feel better about myself.
Nope. There's so much stuff that we're not learning about. Yep.
I
Mhm.
think it's a good thing, you know?
I think so. Yeah, we have to stop at some point, especially with this stuff. It's just too much. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Come up with a name for every single thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here, let's do functions too. So what's the function of the corpus callosum?
Connecting the two hemispheres,
Okay, good, that's a good function. But which hemispheres?
left and right, cerebral hemispheres.
Good, so connects left and right cerebral hemispheres. Good. What about function for lateral ventricle? For any of the ventricles?
Produce CSF.
Okay, to produce CSF. And
Like
at,
the brain.
at which location? Or like at which structure?
Choroid plexus.
Good, the choroid plexus. Good. Lightens the brain.
Oh, yeah.
Is that one that I've never thought about that. You're probably right? Because it's like water is probably less dense than all of the cells. Okay, that's a good one. Lightens the brain. Good.
Right. Did we talk about the buoyancy of the brain? And don't the ventricle will contribute to that buoyancy?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's what you meant. Oh, okay, got it. Like so after like the CSF, so not like inside, right? Because there's no buoyancy of the brain when the CSF is inside.
Lightens the weight so it can.
Got it.
go
Yes.
In this, subarachnoid space?
Correct. Yep. Okay, good. Yep, great.
If you don't have enough CSF, you can go through your magnum.
I know, that's great
Mhm.
fact in the book, huh?
Yeah.
If there is no buoyancy or CSF, that the whole brain can just collapse through the Magnum foramen.
Mm-hmm.
Foramen.
Where I
Yep.
work too, people get mad at like head injuries and stuff.
Does it have?
Their brainstem
I mean,
herniates.
it's a danger, so you have to like really watch them. It's not like every day.
Won't you be like dead after that, or before even that? Once
Yeah.
the liquid leaves the brain?
I think it depends on how much leaves and like how far the brainstem like slides down into the foramen magnum too, right? Wasn't that an episode on Grey's Anatomy? Didn't I don't mean to spoil it, but didn't
You know, it struck me
I'm
as
not
a
intending to watch it, so go ahead and spoil it.
I was made to watch it.
Something in the air.
Maryland's your favorite.
What's his name? 007? What was his name? Didn't that happen to him?
I didn't watch it.
Oh, nobody has seen Grey's
I don't
Anatomy?
think so I can't watch it, you know.
Oh, okay,
Too
okay,
much
never mind.
stuff going on.
Got it. Okay, never mind.
Dreamy or McSteamy?
No, it was the other one.
But what happened?
Greg? I don't
Greg
remember.
went out to
I don't remember.
Magnum foramen magnum?
Yeah, his brainstem herniated. Like they didn't know who it was. They just like received the patient, and his brainstem like slid through his foramen magnum, and then he passed. But it ended up being like one of like the main like doctors on the show. You know, they found out. You remember that? Or you heard about that? Oh.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
man.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't think it's real. I mean, you don't think it's, because you think of the brain, something like, until you touch it, something more sturdy than just lighter than tofu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't really think about how delicate it really is. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, let's do these cranial nerves too, right? So, oh, I'm sorry, no, we didn't even finish the functions, right?
Good distraction.
Yeah, very distracted, sorry. Okay, that was for this, right? What's the function of septum pellucidum?
Separate lateral ventricle.
Good, right? So it separates the lateral ventricles. Function of the fornix?
Connect mammillary body to hippocampus.
Good, connects mammillary bodies to hippocampus. Good. Function
Funny
of,
story, your picture's still in the brain.
sorry, say it
The
again?
picture on the board.
Oh, the picture of, with the circles and the lines. Nice.
It connects it.
It must be useful. People must know exactly what it's talking about, and it's perfectly clear to them. Okay, function for caudate.
That would be the unconscious movement of voluntary muscle.
Okay, good. Yeah, subconscious control of skeletal muscle. That's a good blanket function for any cerebral basal nucleus. Yes. Function of interthalamic adhesion. Good. Connects the two thalami together. Function of thalamus.
Oh, that's a relay and filter center of information.
Exactly. So it relays which information?
The sensory?
Yes.
Hold on, this is, no, never mind, I'm checking it back.
Afferent, yes. But like, is it all afferent all sensory information, or only
Except
Ex-
olfaction.
exactly except olfaction, right?
Oh, that's what you meant.
Mm.
So sensory was correct,
Yes.
because I'm digging through my brain, I can't find anything else, okay, except the
Yes. Good. Yeah. So everything that you become aware of, conscious of, has to go through the thalamus, except for olfaction. Yep. Good. Okay. What about the function of the pineal gland? Good. Makes melatonin. What does melatonin do? Good. Makes you sleepy, right? So it helps to like regulate your circadian rhythm, right? Okay. Good. Yeah. There's a reflex where. Do you guys know Andrew Huberman? Andrew Huberman. He's like a neuroscientist at Stanford. He talks about how like in the morning when you wake up, you should look like at the sun or go outside to get light into your eye, because when the light hits your retina, then it goes to the hypothalamus, and then the hypothalamus tells the pineal gland to start secreting melatonin. So it's like if you like struggle waking up in the morning, that's one of the important things to do, is to look at light to Sorry, not to secrete melatonin, but to stop the melatonin secretion. Yeah. hmm Okay, good. Function for superior colliculus.
Visual, reflex.
Good. Produces reflexes due to visual stimuli. What about for the inferior colliculus? Right, so produces reflexes due to auditory stimuli. Good. Okay. What is this? Good, cerebral peduncle. Good. Function?
These are, well,
Okay, good. Contains somatic motor tracts. Contains somatosensory tracts. Those are good functions. What about this?
this is the oculomotor nerve.
Good. The oculomotor nerve. Which number? Number 3. Good. Functions?
Eye controls eye movement,
Mhm.
also constrict and dilate pupil.
So it doesn't do both of them. It only does one of them.
Constrict pupil then.
Okay. Why?
Focusing.
Okay, good. And so pupillary constriction, is that a sympathetic or parasympathetic response?
Parasympathetic.
Good job. And then what else does it do? What's the last function?
Focus.
Okay, good. It helps you to focus on near and distant objects. What's the name of that process?
Parasympathetic too.
Mm.
You want to have the full somatic ones?
It's parasympathetic, but like which structure is changing shape? We haven't done special senses yet.
We did not,
Okay.
but this is the ciliary muscles.
Okay, the ciliary muscles. Say it again, Maggie. What did you say?
Oh, I said something.
Okay, nice, good. So the ciliary muscles are connected, attached to the lens, right? We have a lens in our eye, like a camera has a lens, and that lens can change shape. And so the changing shape of the lens is called lens accommodation, because you're trying to accommodate for objects that are close or far away from your eye, right? Okay, so it does eye muscle control, pupillary constriction, and lens accommodation. Good. What about this region of the brain?
Pons.
Good, the pons. Which nerve is this?
Trigeminal.
Good. Which number?
4.
Not 4, but
Oh, hold on. It's 5.
5.
Because the trochlea is 4.
Nice. Good. Functions?
Isn't it sensation, facial sensation? Because we don't need to know the branches. So that would be the facial sensation for temperature, pressure, something else, and muscles of mastication.
Okay, good, right? So somatosensation to the face and like some of the top of the head. Also some of the structures like deeper to the face, like the orbits or the nasal cavity, oral cavity, the anterior cranial fossa. So it's like the face and then a little bit deeper than the face, and then the muscles of mastication. Name the 2 muscles of mastication that you learned about.
Your master.
Masseter,
Buccinator.
not buccinator, no. Temporalis, right?
Oh.
Yeah, buccinator is not a muscle of mastication, it's a muscle of what?
Well, then your
Facial expression, right? Which cranial nerve innervates the muscles of facial expression?
Facial.
The facial nerve, right? Good job,
Which is what
good.
we-
Okay, which one is this?
Abducens.
Good, abducens, which number? 6, good. Function?
your eyes.
Eye movement.
Good, eye movement, eye muscle control. Specifically, it abducts the eyes, right? That's why it's called the abducens nerve.
No, it's abducts or abducts?
Abduct,
The other ways,
like a pug.
I can remember abduct is other ways, right?
Away from the midline. Or when the alien abducts you, you're taken away from Earth, right? Or, yep.
Well, that never happened, so I never could remember that word, unfortunately.
I don't want to give the other example of abduction, though.
I
Good.
like that. I can never remember that, except for the muscle exam, that's the only way Only time I could remember the fear, yeah. My amygdala worked really good.
Nice, nice. Okay, so that's the sixth cranial nerve. Which one is this?
Facial.
Good. The seventh, the facial nerve. Good. Functions.
Facial expression.
So it innervates muscles of facial expression.
Taste.
It does taste to the anterior 2/3 of the tongue.
And lacrimal and salivary gland secretion.
Good. So it innervates the lacrimal glands and 2 of the 3 salivary glands. Good. Yeah, that's all that we learned about. Yep. Okay, good. Here is a mnemonic a student came up with to remember the functions of the facial nerve. She said that you're at home and you make dinner, but you put too much salt in it, and then you eat it and you taste it, and it's disgusting, and then you start crying because you realize that you're gonna have to make dinner again, right? So everything that happened in that story are functions of the facial nerve. So eating the food and tasting it, that's the taste to the anterior 2/3 of the tongue. And you make a disgusted face, right? That's innervation to the muscles of facial expression. You start crying because the food is bad, that's lacrimal gland. And to taste things, you have to dissolve the solute, right? So you need saliva. So taste and saliva goes together, right? Okay, good. And which one is this? Good. Vestibulocochlear. Good. Functions?
Isn't it the balance and hearing?
Okay, good. Hearing but not balance. Equilibrium, right? What's the difference? Or what is equilibrium? Equilibrium is like balance, but like for the head specifically. So it's like detection of head position. Like, is the head stationary or is it accelerating? Is it rotating? Is it static and level? Is it static and tilted, right? Head position, that's what equilibrium is. I suppose that's slightly different than balance. Balance is not just the head, it's like the whole body, right? More than just the head. Okay, and this one?
Glossopharyngeal.
Good, glossopharyngeal. Which number? 9. Functions?
Isn't it swallowing and
Swallowing.
larynx? Oh, no, it's pharynx.
But what about the pharynx?
Posterior 1/3.
Oh, pharynx is swallowing, it's
Mhm.
somatic motor, then there is a parasympathetic. I'm still learning that one.
Okay, so
Your salivary glands?
Yeah.
So glossopharyngeal. So let's think about the pharyngeal part first. So it innervates the throat muscles, some of the throat muscles for swallowing. But it's also innervating like the posterior tongue and posterior oral cavity for like sensory, right? So that's the pharynx part. The glosso part is, well, you tell me, what is the glosso part?
Would that be the glans secretion?
Okay, so it does one of the extrinsic salivary glands. So if it's doing saliva, it's also probably doing what else?
Taste.
Taste, right? So the anterior 2/3 of the tongue was the facial nerve for taste. The posterior 1/3 is the glossopharyngeal for taste. So this is like, think of like drinking hot chocolate versus hot coffee, right? So it's like hot versus cold, so that's like somatosensation. And then knowing the difference between like chocolate and coffee is special sensory, with like both on that posterior region of the tongue. So that's what it means by glosso, right? And then the pharyngeal is like swallowing, like of the throat muscles, but also sensory to like the back of the throat, right? Like the gag reflex, right? That's mediated by the glossopharyngeal nerve, right? Like if you touch your uvula or any part of the back of your throat, you want to like get that thing out of the oral cavity, right? So that's because of the sensory information transmitted through glossopharyngeal nerve. What's the other function? There's one last function for glossopharyngeal,
Blood pressure.
right? Blood pressure, right? So it's also receiving axons from the aortic bodies and the carotid bodies, which are detecting the degree of stretch of those arteries, right? How much blood is in the artery? If there's a lot, then the artery will stretch. And when it stretches, that sends signals through the glossopharyngeal nerve, and then it can help to regulate blood pressure, right? Okay. What about this one? Good, the vagus nerve, which number? Good, 10. Functions? This one's everything, right?
Everything, I was about to say, that's really hard to say.
So the way to do this then is to think about like motor and sensory. So name the motor functions first. And then, okay, well, motor, well, what are the two branches of the motor system?
Pharynx and larynx.
Oh, not pharynx and larynx, no. What are the two branches of the motor system? Like of the nervous system?
Oh, autonomic and somatic.
Good, autonomic and somatic, right? So think about what is the somatic motor component of the vagus nerve?
Swallowing and speech.
Okay, good, swallowing and speech. What about the autonomic motor component?
Control of the heart rate, smooth muscle of the intestines and the respiratory.
Exactly. Here's a good way to summarize that. Cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, glands of the thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity, like most of the abdominal cavity. So that's what it innervates parasympathetically, right? The cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, and glands of the thoracic cavity and most of the abdominal cavity. So that's all that was motor. What about the sensory? What are the sensory modalities of the vagus nerve?
The visceral.
Okay, so visceral sense. So everything that it's innervating parasympathetically, it's also receiving visceral sensory information from. Good. What is visceral sensory information? Can you describe that?
Organ sense, like stretch
What do you
of
sense?
the bladder.
Okay, right. So like the stretch of the organ, or the how many solutes are in the interstitial fluid of the organ, like sodium or something like that, right? Okay, good. And then what is now this is where I don't recall because the lab manual doesn't list all the functions. Is there another sensory function for the vagus nerve other than its visceral sensory function? Nope, okay, don't worry about it then. Okay, good. Here,
That's accessory.
good, accessory, number,
11.
good. Function,
It should be sensory only.
it's not
Oh,
sensory,
motor only,
it's
sorry.
motor only.
Movement of head and neck.
Good, movement of head and neck. And the way that it does that is by innervating the trapezius muscle and the sternocleidomastoid muscle, right? Because you remember, one of the functions of sternocleidomastoid for unilateral contraction was contralateral rotation or lateral flexion of the head. Trapezius can do extension, right? All of those are movements of the head and neck, right? So because this nerve is innervating those muscles, that's how it helps to move the head and neck. Good.
It's also swallowing.
I think that's old data. I think that people have realized that that branch of the accessory nerve that they thought was the accessory nerve was really just a branch of the vagus nerve. So sure, it says that in the lab manual now, but I think I'm trying to get that removed because that's not what the recent data indicates about the accessory nerve, but you can say that for now. That's fine. Yep. Okay. And then this one,
Hypo.
good, hypoglossal. Good. Which number?
12.
Good, 12. Function?
Swallowing and speech?
Okay, good. Swallowing and speech. That's a little, I like to think of this as like, where are these nerves going? Like, where are they connected to, you know? So these nerves are connected to the muscles in the tongue, right? So it's like, well, It helps to move your tongue. That's its function. So what can your tongue do? It can help you swallow, speak, lick, anything, any movement of the tongue, right? Okay. And then those are almost all of the cranial nerves. Which two didn't we do? Or three didn't we do?
Oh, we didn't do
Any of the O's.
We didn't do two of the O's and one of the T's.
right, so that would be the old fashioned,
What about like this one that comes around here?
and this is trochlea.
Good, trochlear. Function of trochlear.
Isn't it eye movement?
Good.
Eye muscle movement?
Good.
So it's somatic motor.
Good.
It's one of the six, right?
Nice. Or one of the six for
For the eye movement.
of the six for eye
Because
movement.
four
One of the
them
three
is
for eye movement.
oculomotor, then one of them is trochlea.
Oh, one of the six
and
extraocular
the
muscles.
abducens is the sixth one, right?
I don't understand. Are you saying that? How about this? There's three nerves that innervate the extraocular muscles.
Right.
3, 4, 6, and then there's 6 extraocular muscles. So
Well, there's the oculomotor nerve innervates 4 muscles that move the eye.
mm,
Trochlea innervates another 5th one,
mm,
and the abducens the 6th one.
got it. Okay, got it.
That's what I meant.
Got it. Makes sense now. Yep, got it. Good. Okay. And then what about, maybe it's on a different, let's just do it here, it's fine. What about like this one?
That's the,
Good.
that's the
Good, the optic nerve. Maybe I should draw it like this, right? So like those are the optic nerves, those arrows, and then what's the X?
the optic chiasm.
Good, the optic chiasm, and then these arrows, the optic tracts. Good. Which number? 2. Function?
Vision.
Vision. Good.
Sensory only.
Sensory only. Good. And then these ones.
This is the olfactory bulb.
Good. Olfactory bulb.
Olfactory tract.
And the olfactory tract. Good. So this is the tract where the X is. This is the bulb where the circle is. And then all those dots, those are the nerves coming off of the bulb. Function?
Smell.
Good. Smell, olfaction. Good. Good job. All right. What is this?
The olives.
Good. The olive. Function?
Housing the cell body.
Sorry, say it again, Meg.
Relay station for proprioception.
Okay, good. So it relays proprioceptive information to the cerebellum. Good. And this is unconscious proprioceptive information. What is this? Good. The pyramid. Okay, that's true. So, okay, what's the function of the pyramid? Okay, contains somatic motor tracts. Allows for, like what is this?
Decussation of the.
Good, the decussation of the pyramids. Good. So we can say allows for, well, which tract decussates here? Do you know the name of the tract or pathway that decussates at the pyramids? Like what? It's going from the cerebral cortex to the spinal cord.
Cerebrospinal?
So it's called the corticospinal tract, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, we haven't done that yet. Everybody's at a different level. Some people have started the pathways. So we can say allows for contains somatic motor axons, somatic motor tracts. That's a good function. Yes, allows for decussation of it's really the lateral corticospinal tract. Okay.
What's the function of all of them, sorry?
To relay unconscious proprioceptive information to the cerebellum.
I just have somatic sensory info between spinal cord and cerebellum.
Mm-hmm. That's like the same thing, but it's like what kind of somatic sensory information? Because somatic sensory is like pain, temperature, vibration, touch, right? So it's like which specific somatosensation, proprioception, right? That's a good one. Yep. Yes.
Say that one more time.
Convey, where is it? Somatic motor, because they're somatic motor tracts, right?
Mhm.
Versus from motor cortex to spinal cord.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's great.
And when we talk about motor cortex, now that I'm thinking about, we're talking about primary motor center,
Correct. Primary motor cortex.
because that was written before I knew that.
Oh, yeah? Nice. Yes, good. All right, let's do it from this view.
Oh, that's easy.
So here's lateral view. What is this?
Midbrain.
Which part of the midbrain?
Cerebrum peduncles.
Good, the cerebral peduncles.
You've got your peduncles on.
Good,
We can recognize them all in different visions.
good. Here?
Superior caniculi.
Good, superior colliculus here.
Inferior caniculi.
Good, inferior colliculus. And then those are called the what?
The
Good, the corpora quadrigemina. They call it the tectal plate, but just ignore that, right? Okay, what about here?
pons.
That's the pons. What is this nerve?
Trigeminal.
Good, the trigeminal nerve. So the trigeminal nerve is here, like in the middle of the pons. Oops. Oh yeah, no, there's different parts to it. Here, let's go out of order. Which one is this?
That's one number 12, so it's
Good.
hypoglossal.
Nice, 12, hypoglossal, good. What about this one? Good, the vagus, number 10. Here,
Accessory number 11.
good, accessory, number 11. What is this?
Olive.
The olive, good. Let's see, what is this?
What is this?
Okay, the fourth ventricle, yes, but yeah, like what's that at the edge of the fourth ventricle?
Wouldn't that be the inferior, the hole in it, no? It's not a hole.
The hole in it, yes.
Oh, you are talking about the hole in it, okay. So it's the
It's not that, because that's between the lateral and third ventricle. This is between fourth ventricle and subarachnoid space. Good, the aperture, good. But which, good, the lateral aperture, good, right?
How do you say it?
Aperture,
Because I know how to spell it, but I'm like, it's not coming out right.
yeah, aperture, okay, good.
And where's medial?
Median,
Median.
we can't see it because this is a lateral view.
Right.
Okay, what's the function of any of the apertures?
It allows the pathway of the CSF to the subarachnoid space.
Perfect, right? Allows CSF to leave the fourth ventricle and enter into the subarachnoid space. Good. All right, these are new. What is this?
I want to say it's the medial peduncle, cerebellum peduncle.
Okay, good, close. Not medial, but
Inferior? No.
oh no, not the word medial, but the word sounds like medial, but not medial.
Median?
Middle.
Middle, oh my gosh.
Middle.
See, they should just pick one that means middle and stick to it. Median, middle, what the heck?
No, those words mean different things. Median means along the midline. Medial means like close to the midline. Middle means in between, right? Not necessarily having anything to do with the midline, right? All those words have different definitions. They sound similar, but they mean different things. Okay, well, let's do all of them. Which one is this?
Superior cerebellar peduncle.
Good, the superior cerebellar peduncle.
How many peduncles do we have?
3 and then 1 cerebrum.
Yeah, 3 cerebellar, 1 cerebral. So there's 3 for the cerebellum, and then there's 1 for the cerebrum. Which one is this?
That must be inferior.
Good, the inferior cerebellar peduncle.
I never thought it connects, it looks like that on the lateral view.
Yep, that's what it looks like. Okay, what's the function? Here, let's start. What What's the function of the middle cerebellar peduncle?
It connects pons to the cerebellum.
Okay, okay, good. That's a function. It's like a proximal function. What's another function? Think about like the entire, we might have to draw it out, but think about like the entire, like if you're trying to like perform some action and you're off, like you can correct that action. Like how does that work? Think about that process. What's the function of the cerebellar peduncle? Here, let's go through it. Yes? Here, let's go through it. So,
Well, we need to establish pons. It's a breathing and respiratory center.
But it doesn't.
I have it in my notes.
all right, here. So let's say here, it's kind of, I don't know, something like that, and then it's in there, and then like that. It's like here's the cerebellum, and that's the spinal cord. Here's some like skeletal muscle. All right, let's use. Okay, so it's like, if this line is the central sulcus, then what is this?
Precentral gyrus.
Good, the precentral gyrus. So that's the precentral gyrus. So let's say you have some signal coming down from the precentral gyrus from some upper motor neuron. It can come down, and then it goes all the way down to the spinal cord to synapse on the lower motor neuron, and then that one comes out,
Which would be CTPN.
which would be
Anterior lateral horn. The anterior horn, right?
good, in the anterior horn. Good. What happens is in the pons, this can synapse on another neuron, and then that one sends information about the plan that's going to the muscle to the cerebellum, right? Because you want to perform some action. Let's say the action that you want to perform is like flexion of the arm to 90 degrees. You don't want to go this way or that way. You want like it to do that, right? So that's the plan, right? So that signal goes to your arm muscle, so it starts happening. But it also goes to your cerebellum, okay? Then what happens is there's a neuron, sensory neuron, and it's a proprioceptor, right? Coming from the muscle and the tendons, and it's telling the cerebellum the like position of the muscle based on the degree of stretch of the tendons and the muscle itself. So that comes in, and then it goes up, and then it synapses. It synapses where? In which region of the medulla? In the olive. Good. So it's like that's what this is, right? That's the olive. And so it'll synapse, and then that'll come in here, and then the olive is like telling the cerebellum where the arm is, right? Let's say that the arm, let's say you start like going like this, and then your arm starts to like deviate medially, right? So that information about the medial deviation is going to the cerebellum. Then the cerebellum has to like compare the red and the blue. It has to compare like the intended plan like with what's actually happening. And then once it like, if it sees a discrepancy, then it sends corrective proprioceptive information up to the primary motor cortex so that it can adjust the plan that's occurring, right? And that occurs through a third neuron. Let's make it yellow. And that goes up here. And then it goes basically like that, right? But we know the names of these structures. So like that one versus that one versus that one. Here, let's make it more obvious. It's like that one versus that one versus This one. So what is this called, this structure?
That's inferior.
Good.
cerebellum.
Good, so that's the inferior cerebellar peduncle. What about this one?
Middle
Good,
cerebellum.
good, that's the middle cerebellar peduncle. And like that one. And what about this one? Good, that's the superior cerebellar peduncle. Superior cerebellar peduncle. So these are the functions of these cerebellar peduncles, right? The function of the middle cerebellar peduncle is to send the motor plan to the cerebellum. The function of the inferior cerebellar peduncle is to send the proprioceptive, the unconscious proprioceptive information from the muscle to the cerebellum. The function of the superior is to send corrective proprioceptive information to the motor cortex, right? And so all of that is occurring like very quickly and all at once, right? So it's like you go up and you sense the deviation, then it goes to the cerebellum tells the cerebrum, hey, fix it. Then the cerebrum sends it down, okay, I will, and then it does, and then back to the cerebellum to see if it like got fixed, and if it did, then the cerebellum doesn't have to tell the cerebrum anymore to do anything because the plan is occurring as intended, right?
Can you repeat it again? So superior would be cerebellum sending the corrective plan to the primary center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so superior cerebellar peduncle sends corrective proprioceptive information to the primary motor cortex. I don't know if it goes there directly, but like that's where it goes eventually. So that's the important part, right? The middle cerebellar peduncle is sending like the motor plan to the cerebellum from the cerebral cortex, from the primary motor cortex. And then the inferior cerebellar peduncle it's doing like the same thing as the olive, right? Conveying unconscious proprioceptive information to the cerebellum, right?
Unconscious wisdom, proprioceptive information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have to know, like, is the muscle actually doing what it's supposed to? And if not, then tell the cerebrum to fix it, right? Right. Oops.
What's middle do?
What does middle do? Oh, here, look at the picture. So it's like, here's the neuron, here's the
It
axis.
receives the information through
Yeah, how would you describe that?
And does it also do the skeletal muscle, or is that?
Well, so primary center, or primary motor center sends information to actually both
Mm-hmm.
cerebellum and to the system, to the muscle.
Mm-hmm.
But then it returns for correction. So it just primary motor sensors send information through middle cerebellum peduncle to the cerebellum.
Exactly, right? About like the movement that is about to occur, right? About like the signal that you sent, you know? The signal that I'm sending is flex the right arm, you know? Like to 90 degrees, like without deviating medially or laterally. Like that's the plan, that's the signal, right? That signal goes to like the anterior horn in the spinal cord, but also to the cerebellum, like at the same time, right? Because the cerebellum is about to receive information like from the arm about whether the arm is doing the intended plan. Hmm?
So I guess intended plan sent to, okay.
Yeah, intended plan is sent to cerebellum. Sends intended plan to cerebellum. Sends the motor plan to the cerebellum. Something like that. Yes. All right. So that's what the cerebellar peduncles do. Which nerve is this?
Trochlea.
Good, the trochlear. Which number? 4. Good. Function?
Function, this is the arm.
Okay, good. So controls eye muscle.
Controls superior oblique.
Okay, specifically it does the superior oblique muscle. We haven't done special senses, so let's go over all of the cranial nerves again, like probably next week, like with the special sensory information that we have learned, right? Because,
Oh, you're right before exam.
oh, when is the lab exam next Friday?
Following
No,
that.
yeah, the next Friday after that, right? Okay. Yes, we have one more. So we'll go over like special senses next week, and we'll see like, because there's 3 nerves that do eye muscle control, right? But they don't all do the same eye muscles. So next time we'll figure out like which nerves do like which specific eye muscles, you know?
What's your guys' lecture?
We have on Monday,
Mine's Tuesday.
Next Monday?
no, following.
Oh,
Yours is, mine's in like Tuesday in like a couple days.
Yeah, next week, right? Isn't everybody's lecture exam next week?
Yeah.
Everybody has
Yeah.
social senses done?
we do. We have to know all the nervous system for the lecture exam Tuesday.
We have to know all the nervous system minus like the details of like the cranial nerves. Like we just have to know generally like what they are.
We have to know all the cranial nerves and their foramen and go through
And what day is yours?
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday. We have to know the foramen they go through too.
Tuesday, like 4 days?
Yeah,
Kids
um,
start.
Or the Tuesday
Yeah.
after that?
I love my
4
teachers
days.
so much right now.
And I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know. I really need to go over the tracks. Are we gonna do that today?
we can do that. Yeah. You want here? Here. What time is it? 10:30.
I have no idea what is going on with like tracks and the sympathetic chain ganglia and the rami.
Okay. Okay. So let's finish this slide, and then we can do some of that. Yeah. There's a lot of information. All right. Let's finish this one. All right. Which cranial nerve is this?
Obtusans.
Good. Which number?
6.
Good. Function?
Eye movement.
Good. Eye movement. Good. Abducts the eye specifically. Good. Like that's great, right? Good. What about, this is where it's like tough because we're like looking at a lateral view, but
Just either of them.
like here's one, and like here's another one, and then here's this one.
Right.
So it's like this one is probably the most lateral because it's like also the most inferior. So which one is this? 9. Good. Which what's the name?
And this is glossopharyngeal.
Good. Glossopharyngeal. Good.
Wow, look at this.
What about this is this one?
Facial. Is it facial?
I can't tell. I think it's 8. Yeah, that must be 8 because
Oh, that's a,
the facial nerve, we don't learn about this, but it's got like really 2 branches that are right next to each other, like a smaller one and a bigger one. Don't worry about having to identify it on a lateral view. You probably only have to identify it on a anterior view, like these ones in this like corner here.
there's literally only one brain that has a good both.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
one
so
brain
we're
that
right.
has like 11 out of the 12, and then
What's
all
that?
the other ones, there's one brain, it's the one that says like demo only, that has 11 out of the 12 cranial nerves, and
Right.
then all of the other brains, it's variable. Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
That's what we're probably gonna do from the drawing.
Really? Well, we're doing it on the brain.
Like
The
a
actual thing.
There's differences in labs, yes.
Pete got all butthurt that all the brains are missing all of them, so.
So there is one that is in structure only, and that one has pretty good left side of
Mhm.
it. And it has every single one of them. Oh, no, there is 11, you're right. Which one is missing there?
5, which is an easy one.
Oh, the trochlear one, right? No.
Trigeminal. 5,
Trigeminal is not missing there.
it is.
Well, it's cut, but you know where it is, you can see it where
Exactly.
it's supposed to be,
Hmm.
right?
And that's how you should study all the cranial nerves, right? Like, where is it? Like, where is it supposed to be? Like, where is it relative to something else? Yes,
But I don't think there is trochlear, is there?
there is. Yep, I can show you.
I can remember.
It's on the left side. It's really small, though.
Can we take you there? To see it?
Would you do the demo during open lab today? after
No.
this, or-
Um,
Johnny said no.
Said, no, I'm going home.
No, I can go and show you the trochlear nerve really quickly, but then I have to go after that. Yeah.
That's awesome, thank you.
Of course. Okay. Okay, let's do some of the pathways, right? Let's do like the cortical spinal pathway, like the anterior and lateral, and also do like some spinal cord anatomy. So to do that, let's just draw some pictures. Maybe I have slides on it too.
That's terrifying.
Let's see. Okay, which pathways do you have to know, Austin? Specifically?
Ascending
Only
only.
the ascending?
Oh, what did you say?
Or which pathways do we have to know?
We don't have to know most of them.
For the, not even for the lecture exam?
Well, okay, so there is actually the whole chapter in the book that is like pathways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think nothing from that except we are just started to learn the parasympathetic and sympathetic
Mm-hmm.
in systems, and we didn't get that far.
Okay, so
I'm
then,
just reading up on the pathways and kind of like disregarding long names, kind of to understand
mm-hmm.
how it works.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
My class has to know the medial lemniscal pathway,
Mm-hmm.
the anterolateral pathway,
Mm-hmm.
the spinal cerebellar pathway,
Mm-hmm.
and the corticospinal pathway.
Okay. So I don't think we have enough time to do all of those.
Do cortical, and then I don't know what spinothalamic tracts,
Yep.
anterior, lateral.
Yep. Okay. Here, I'll give you like a super overview of the sensory and motor tracts. Then we'll do like one specific for each one, and then we'll try to do autonomic nervous system, and then that'll probably take the rest of the time. So the way that it works is like here's a cross section of the spinal cord, and which region of the spinal cord is this?
The circle.
Like which region of white matter is this? What do you call this?
Posterior funiculum?
Good. Posterior funiculus, posterior column, right? This one?
Lateral column.
Good. Lateral column. Here?
Anterior column.
Good. Anterior column. So in each one of these columns or funiculi, there are tracts. So in the posterior column, there is two. It's called the fasciculus cuneatus and fasciculus gracilis. Gracilis is more medial, cuneatus is more lateral. Cuneatus is coming from like upper body, like upper limbs, upper chest, and gracilis is coming from like lower body. I forget the boundary, but like maybe here and then everything inferior, so like lower limbs, lower abdomen, lower back. And this is carrying like proprioceptive information, fine touch information. There's another one, but somatosensations. And both of these together is called the posterior funiculus medial lemniscus pathway. That's one name for it. Another name for it is dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway. So it's just describing like where it is, the dorsal column or the dorsal funiculus, posterior funiculus, and then it's describing what it does, right? It runs medially, and then it forms a lemniscus, which is a ribbon. So, a ribbon,
Oh, like a hair ribbon?
like a hair ribbon, yes.
So is this the medial lemnisci tract?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So this is what it looks like. So you have some, here, let's name these parts. So like, these are rootlets. So what is this? The root, good. Which root? Good, dorsal root. What is this? Dorsal root ganglion. What is this? Which nerve? Good, the spinal nerve. What is this? Good, posterior ramus. Good. What is this? Good, anterior ramus. And then these are for sympathetic, so let's just skip that for now. So you have some sensory, first order sensory neuron coming in, and then it goes through either one of these, depending on like where in the body, upper body or lower body, and then it goes up, and then it reaches what is this? The medulla oblongata. So it synapses on the second neuron, and then it decussates in the medulla oblongata, and then it goes up, like all of the axons go up, and they form like this ribbon, right? So this is the lemniscus. So this is what they were talking about. So this lemniscus goes up, it goes through the midbrain, and then the axons terminate here. What is this?
Is it thalamus?
It has to be the thalamus, right? Because what's the function of the thalamus?
To relay and filter information.
Exactly. Except for which information?
Olfactory.
Exactly, right? So it's like it's relaying that proprioceptive and fine touch and the other one to the where?
To cerebrum.
Where in the cerebrum?
To the, well, that's looks like.
Oh,
Is it
the,
the central lobe? But it's like.
Right, the postcentral gyrus. But what's the function? Like what's located within the postcentral gyrus?
It's a sensory.
Right, the primary somatosensory cortex. Right, because what's the function of the primary somatosensory cortex? Or like what happens once?
Sensory. It's in the name.
Right, so like somatosensations, like what happens once the information reaches here? Like what happens? Like you become aware of it, right?
Aware of the field.
Exactly, right? So that's what's going on, right? So it's like if you're trying to test, like this is what doctors do. If they're trying to test like if you have sensory like in your leg, they'll like, take a tuning fork and then like stick it on your thigh or something like that. And like if you can't feel it, then there's some problem like somewhere in the pathway, right? Maybe the first neuron or the second neuron or the thalamus or maybe even the primary somatosensory cortex, because it's not reaching here and you're not becoming aware of it, right? Because that's what the somatosensory cortex does. You become aware of whatever that somatosensory information is, the vibration, that's what it was, vibration. So it's like proprioception, vibration, fine touch information, right? Through the posterior funiculus lemniscus pathway, right? Okay, so that's one of the sensory pathways. Let's do, or any questions on that? Yeah,
So sensory information comes through the dorsal root?
correct.
I
Yes.
thought it came through the ventral root.
No, always dorsal. Dorsal is always sensory. Anterior is always motor. So anterior rootlets and anterior root is always motor. Dorsal rootlets and root is always sensory. The spinal nerve is mixed. So the spinal nerve can have sensory axons or motor axons. Same thing with both of the rami. They can have sensory or motor axons. But the posterior roots and rootlets is only sensory axons. Anterior roots, rootlets is only motor axons. Okay. Yeah, so
And the columns, the posterior columns are only ascending tracts, right?
correct. Yes.
So that's the only way how any information, well, any sensory information, because they're ascending, so any sensory information can actually reach your brain.
Not any sensory information.
Well, most
Like
of
this
the-
sensory info. Well, here, let's go back to this picture, right? Because this is just one sensory tract, right? But there's like the spinocerebellar tract pathway.
Oh, because this one is ascending and descending, so this one particular, okay, never mind, I'm sorry.
No, all of these are ascending. All of these tracts are ascending, right?
Yeah.
And they're carrying like different types of somatosensory information. Like spinothalamic carries pain, temperature, crude touch, right? But that's like crude touch, crude, crude.
What's that word?
Oh,
Crude's like rough, like.
yeah, like rough, not like fine.
Like
It's
something
like
rough.
gross
Yeah,
touch.
like that, not like someone like lightly tickling you, like.
Exactly.
Getting punched or someone grabbing you or.
Exactly, like a large deformation versus like a small deformation, right? So it's like that's what these ones do, right? But this one is doing like, here, let me write them. Like vibration, proprioception, fine touch.
Thank you so much for that word. I was so smart in my class when I had business proprioception.
Nice. Nice.
What is proprioception?
It's like where you are within like
Knowing-
space.
Yeah,
Okay.
knowing where your limbs and things are in space.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Good. Good. Versus this one is like pain, temp, because those two are like the same thing anyway. Crude touch. And then spinocerebellar, well, it tells you where it's going. So what kind of information do you think it's sending?
Well, if it's going to cerebellum.
Hmm.
It's like proprioception.
Exactly, right? So like pro.
Too much about proprioception.
When in doubt,
Is that the
proprioception.
lateral?
Yeah, so both of these spinocerebellar pathways are in the lateral funiculus. This one is the anterior spinocerebellar. This one is the posterior spinocerebellar. So it's carrying like proprioception and some other ones that I can't recall because there's a lot. But like the idea is that the spinal cord is carrying different types of sensory, somatosensory information, right? Vibration versus like pain and temperature versus like crude touch, fine touch. I think you can even describe these further, right? This is probably like unconscious because it's going to the cerebellum, but this is conscious because it's going to the cerebral cortex, right? So we can probably even say I can't spell it. And
It's NSSC.
say it again.
After N should be SC.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
perfect.
Yeah, that's it.
And then double check these because there's maybe additional ones or different ways that they're described, but this is the general idea, right? And then for the motor, I didn't finish all of them, but let's do one specific pathway. So this is from a previous semester. It's kind of rough, but let's just go through it. So in a similar way, here, let me just show you on here. In a similar way, you can have some section of the spinal cord, and then there's like a lateral and an anterior cortical spinal tract. So let's call this one and these are descending, so they're coming down. So and
These
then
two different tracks are, would be classified as the cortical spinal tract.
they start off as one, and then what happens at the pyramids,
Across.
right? So there's a decussation of the cortical spinal tract. The axons that decussate become the lateral cortical spinal tract. The ones that don't decussate become the anterior cortical spinal tract. So let's go through it, like starting off from the motor cortex. So we're here in the precentral gyrus. And here, let's just put some other things here for context. That's the third ventricle. Here is, let's use a different color. That's lateral, okay. Here, yes, good. What is this? Good, thalamus. Here, good, lentiform. What's more lateral? Good, what's more medial? Good. What is all of this? Good, corona radiata. Here, internal capsule. Here, good, cerebral peduncles. So here's what happens, right? The upper motor neuron starts in the precentral gyrus, and then its axon goes through corona radiata, internal capsule, cerebral peduncle, through the pyramids, and then in the pyramids, there's a decussation. 90%, 85 to 90% of the axons of the cortical spinal tract decussate. They cross over to the other side, and then the other 10% don't. So the ones that decussate, all of those axons is called the cortical spinal tract. The ones that don't is called the anterior cortical spinal tract. And then it goes down, and then once it reaches the level where it synapses on the lower motor neuron, all the lateral cortical spinal tract has to do is synapse on that lower motor neuron in the anterior horn. But the anterior cortical spinal tract, what it does is it decussates. What it really does is it has an axon collateral that comes over here and synapses on another neuron here. Because in reality, this tract is more for like controlling the limbs, peripheral structures. This one is more for controlling like medial structures, like of the trunk and torso. So it makes sense that these are being innervated by the anterior cortical spinal tract, like dually innervated, because you need those muscles to really work like together in tandem, right? Versus like my right upper limb like can work more independently, you know? Like it's more important that my spinal muscles work together than my upper limb muscles work together, right? So that's why this one like is innervating two things, like on both sides, but this one is only innervating one thing on one side. And then what happens is, well, it's pretty straightforward after that. It leaves through the anterior rootlets, anterior root, spinal nerve, and then depending on the muscle, like if it's a muscle of the back, it goes through the posterior ramus. If not, it goes through the anterior ramus, and then it innervates whatever that muscle is, right? Skeletal muscle tissue of upper limb is the example that we chose here, right?
So does this not go through a ganglion?
Yeah, it doesn't have to, no. Yeah, it
But
doesn't.
can?
Talking about the sympathetic system?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, no, it does not go through a ganglion.
Oh, yeah, that's the sympathetic system.
Oh, yeah, that's for, yeah, anything with a ganglion is either like sensory, like general sensory, or autonomic nervous system, sympathetic, parasympathetic. Mm-hmm.
When does it go through, oh, JK, I got it, never mind.
Okay, nice. Good. Okay.
Huh? Wait, so if it's, I guess I'll ask anyway,
Mhm.
when, if it's going through the anterior ramus, when does it go through the gray communicating, or when does it go through the white?
Here, let's do that next, right? So we have about 10 minutes to do that. We're not gonna have enough time, but here, let's see. So, oh, here's a pathway. Okay, here's one. This is like a sympathetic reflex. So this is like if you need to release epinephrine, norepinephrine into the blood. So what happens? So the stimulus is some like threat. In this case, it's like a bee sting, right? Here's the bee. The bee. I'm an artist, can you tell? The bee stings the hand, you feel that, right? That sensory information is transmitted through anterior ramus and the spinal nerve, and then the posterior ramus root, and then the posterior rootlets, and then into the posterior horn, and then it synapses on an interneuron, and then that interneuron is going to do two things. It's going to tell the autonomic, sympathetic autonomic motor neuron to fire, and also it's going to send an axon collateral to your brain, to your primary somatosensory cortex, so that you can become aware of the damage that occurred. But before that, before you become aware of it, this neuron, which is located where in the spinal cord? Good. And where are lateral horns located? Good. And that's for which division of the autonomic nervous system? Sympathetic. Where are the parasympathetic autonomic motor neurons located? Okay, so brainstem nuclei. What about in the where in the sacral segments? Which sacral segments? Good. S2 through S4, right? Okay, so this is like somewhere T1 through L2, because we're going to the adrenal medulla, fight or flight, epinephrine or epinephrine. So it comes out, and then it goes through the anterior rootlets, anterior root, spinal nerve, and then these two are called the gray and white communicating rami, right? This is the gray communicating ramus. That's the white communicating ramus. The way to remember which one is first is the spinal cord is gray, like in the middle. Like gray matter is more medial. So the gray matter structure is more medial, right? The white matter structure is more lateral. The on-ramp to the sympathetic chain is the white communicating ramus. So the axon comes in, and then it goes through the sympathetic chain ganglion, and it doesn't synapse.
It does not?
For this pathway, right? Because there's different types of sympathetic pathways, right? This is just one specific pathway. We can go through all of them next time. We just don't have enough time to go through them right now. But it can, if it was a different pathway, it could synapse, and then it could synapse and then leave, or it could go in, synapse, and that could go to a different level. So there's other things it can do. Yeah.
Is the gray communicating ramus gray because it's full of cell bodies?
It's gray because it's full of unmyelinated axons.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is
The ramitis is all the axons, right? There's no bodies. Bodies are in ganglions.
correct. Good.
Is this drawing on the slides you posted?
Uh,
I'm trying to look through them and I don't see.
I don't think so. I don't think this one though.
For our lecture exam, I think we have to do the key state.
I think we do too.
Yeah.
Um,
It's gonna be nice to review it.
I can send you this. Yeah, I can send it you.
Judgment, okay, gentlemen, only pictures.
Thank you.
There's nothing wrong.
No,
Well,
okay,
there's
yeah.
extra legs, but otherwise it's fine.
I might
You
like
might start
it's like
stinging people.
a spider bee. I don't know.
One extra.
Um,
No, we're just joking, whatever, it's clear the pathway, that's all we care about.
okay. Okay, sure. Yeah, I can send you this.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, and then it goes through the sympathetic chain ganglion, and then it passes through a collateral ganglion, which is also called a prevertebral ganglion, and then it goes into the adrenal gland, specifically the medulla, and then it hits this cell, which is like the postganglionic sympathetic motor neuron, but it's really called a chromaffin cell. And then this cell secretes epinephrine, norepinephrine into the blood, and then that helps you deal with the threat. So that's the end goal for any of these pathways, is that that postganglionic sympathetic motor neuron is going to stimulate some effector so that you can deal with the threat, right? So it's going to increase the heart rate or bronchodilate the airways or increase blood flow to the muscles or something like that, right? This is just one pathway. Let me show you the other ones though.
So is the white versus the gray, just communicating ramus, like, just for what body parts it goes to?
It's the difference between the preganglionic and the postganglionic sympathetic motor neuron. Because the preganglionic sympathetic motor neuron is myelinated and the post is not. And here, can I show you on here?
Sure.
So, yeah, looks like here's a good one. So let's start with this one. So here's the lateral horn. There's the cell body of the preganglionic sympathetic motor neuron. Its axon comes out. Now we're in the spinal nerve. Now we're in the anterior ramus. Then we get onto the sympathetic chain through the white communicating ramus. And this one can go up, and then it can synapse. And then that one, here's the cell body of the postganglionic sympathetic motor neuron. It can only leave through the gray communicating ramus because the postganglionic sympathetic motor neuron is unmyelinated. That's why this is the gray communicating ramus, because it's a bunch of unmyelinated axons coming from the postganglionic sympathetic motor neuron. And then it can come out and it can go to different places, right? Blood vessels or erector pili and sweat glands in the skin, right? So it's like this is one pathway. The pathway that I just showed you was this one, the adrenal medulla pathway. There's this pathway, the splanchnic nerve pathway, where the preganglionic sympathetic motor neuron is still in the lateral horn. Its axon comes. It has to go through the white communicating ramus. It can like leave directly through that one, or it can go down and then leave. But the point is that it has to go to a ganglion. In this case, not a paravertebral ganglion, but a prevertebral ganglion. And then the cell body of the postganglionic sympathetic motor neuron is in that prevertebral ganglion. And then its axon goes and innervates. It's usually like the digestive tract, right? So yeah, there's 4 specific pathways for these sympathetic motor neurons. And I think it is like, there's a lot and it's complicated and there's a lot of variation, you know, it can go in or it can go up or down or up 2 levels or down 2 levels. So I think we have to like, maybe next time we'll only do autonomic nervous system. Yeah.
Is this all from one of the tracks in the spinal, or is this unrelated to the spinal tracts?
This is unrelated to the spinal tract. Yeah, because we don't learn about the descending tracts coming from like the hypothalamus to innervate these lower motor neurons. We don't learn about those. Yeah.
So when we talk about this prevertebral ganglion, is that the ones that are sitting kind of right next to the organ and regulate whether, like, if your bee stung you, you're obviously not going to be just resting and digesting, so the impulse to that would be inhibiting that process, right? In sympathetic circuit.
So can we so let's figure out where they are.
Some kind of threat when you need to like fight or flight, right? Like
Uh-huh.
bee sting.
Okay.
The reason why they're innervated, the signal goes basically to, eventually at least, goes to all the organs, like in this prevertebral ganglion, aren't those are sitting kind of by the organ?
By the organ.
Because our
They're in the
sort
same.
of-
They're in the same locations as the unpaired arteries off the abdominal aorta.
The what again?
The unpaired arteries off the abdominal aorta. So, can you recall the unpaired arteries off the
Right.
abdominal aorta? Can you
Yeah.
name them?
Well, celiac
Celiac trunk,
superior, mesentery, and inferior mesentery.
Right. That's where they are. That's where these prevertebral ganglia are. They're like right next to those arteries. There's celiac artery, superior and inferior mesenteric artery. And then their axon extends out to the organ.
To the organ, right?
Mhm.
So like if the response is to fight or flight, they would be inhibiting resting and digesting, right?
Yes. Good.
And when the response, let's say you got away and you you know, your parasympathetic system come down and regulated your heart rate and maybe like, and then the signal would be coming, okay, now it's time to digest, right?
Correct.
Like, that would be like either inhibiting or reversing and like processing.
Correct.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, all of the effectors of the autonomic nervous system are dually innervated. So that just means like all the cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, glands, they receive input from sympathetic and parasympathetic. And then that can make that effector either like increase activity or decrease activity based on like whether you need to fight and flee, or rest and digest. Yeah. Good. Okay. Any last questions?
Well. Parasympathetic
Mhm.
pathways, are there also 4 parasympathetic?
Oh no, parasympathetic is way easier. Here, let me try to show you. It's I don't know if I
That's
have
the
any,
first time when you say way easier in anatomy.
yeah, it's like one of the only times. So for the parasympathetic, the preganglionic parasympathetic motor neurons that are located in S2 through S4 lateral horns, so they start here, and then their axons, they come out, and then they can do things like form plexuses, but the point is, the axon is really, really long, and then the second neuron, the postganglionic parasympathetic motor neuron, is located like immediately next to the organ or in the wall of the organ, right? That's how all of those pathways are, and that's it, really. Yeah, for parasympathetic. Yes.
Taking it back, I think my professor was talking about that.
Yeah, at least for these ones down here. It does other things for the cranial parasympathetic output, but I don't think we go into these at all. Yeah,
And for both
just ignore
systems,
that.
the post one is unmyelinated, right?
Correct. Yes. Good job. Yeah, super important to remember that preganglionic axon is myelinated and that the postganglionic axon is unmyelinated for both sympathetic and parasympathetic. Yes.